Well, I'm going to call on folks too.
Yeah.
How about Donna Dodson?
You're muted.
Unmute, Donna.
I've asked, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself when we call on
Yeah.
you. And then,
Greater Cheeseman Park Neighborhood Association member.
Great, thank you. How about Bill Tanner?
Hi, Bill Tanner, Cherry Creek East Association.
Perfect, thanks, Bill. Megan Whelan.
Yes, hi, Megan Whalen with Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods.
Perfect, welcome, Megan. How about Joanna Rosa Sanz?
Hi, Joanna Rosa Signs, Harkness Heights Neighborhood Association, your Vice President for Denver Inc. and Education Chair. Sorry I couldn't be there this morning. Good morning, everyone.
Lamone?
Lamone Knowles, Delegate at Large, President of the East Denver Residents Council, and the DEI Committee Chair. Good morning.
Thanks, Lamone. Joel?
Hi, everyone. Joel Noble, delegate from Curtis Park Neighbors. I'm also the chair of the INC Transportation Committee.
Great. Morning, Joel. How about Ellen?
Sorry about that. I was struggling to find my unmute. I'm Ellen Roth. I am the president of South City Park Neighborhood Association.
Great, thanks. Blake?
Yeah, Blake Davis from Lincoln Broadway Corridor Neighborhood Org.
Great, welcome, Blake. How
Delegate.
about Tim? Tim? McHugh.
Tim McHugh from Wash Park East.
Great, welcome, Tim. Nolan?
This is Nolan Hahn from Alma Lincoln Park.
Great, welcome. Did I get Miles?
Yeah, Miles Tangling, Congress Park.
Great, welcome, Miles. How about Bruce?
Bruce Basquette, delegate, Hutchinson Hills, Willow Point homeowners.
Great, welcome. Michael? Henry?
Michael Henry, Neighbors for Greater Capitol Hill.
Great, welcome, Michael. And how about Brad?
Brad Cameron, president of Neighbors for Greater Capitol Hill.
Great, welcome. I think that's everybody. Please let me know if I didn't get you.
I think, are you introducing everybody?
Yeah, we just had folks say hi.
Oh, okay. My name's Donna Wickham. I'm the president of the University Hills Neighborhood Association and on the Mayor's Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Great, welcome. So did we get you, Bruce?
Hi, I'm Maggie Price, delegate from Congress Park Neighbors, and I also do the membership.
Thanks, Maggie. All right. And we have Jenna Farley here from Regis, which we are very thankful for. Yeah.
I did not understand. Hi, good morning, everybody. It's fun to see so many faces that I recognize and folks that I don't. Welcome to Regis University. I want to tell you just a couple things that we have going on here at the university that you probably have heard of, but I also love that we do these type of community gatherings where it's not very public, right? I hope that we can start thinking about Regis. I've been working on this for 4 years to help Regis, people think of Regis as a community gathering location, whether it's a small meeting, community meetings that we're planning for Brunn, or some of the larger activities that we have going on. So speaking of those larger activities, today, as you pulled onto campus, you might have noted in lot 3, just right there at 50th and Lowell, is the Horseshoe Market. That is a community staple that's been around for a very long time, and we just welcomed it to Regis for the first time last spring at this time. So I invite you to head on over there. There is there are 120 artisans that are over there today, 120 booths, and there's antiques and plants and soaps and jewelry and all kinds of things, tapestries and such. So, and food. So if anybody needs a snack when you're done here, please, I welcome you over there. A few other things. I talk about this all the time, but we have a mobile food pantry here the first Tuesday of every month. It's in lot 6, which is at 50th and Federal. It's in partnership with Food Bank of the Rockies. I have just a couple of flyers, but if you are able to promote that, especially those of you who are in the North Denver neighborhood, I mean, it's open to anybody, right? It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're from Adams County or Denver, or any part of the city, you're welcome to stop by here. It doesn't matter your age, your political affiliation, your neighborhood affiliation, your religious affiliation, nothing, right? Even your income level, it doesn't matter. If you need food, then you should swing by on the first Tuesday of the month. It goes from 9 a.m. until 11. And we're also looking for volunteers for that, especially over the summer. So if any of your neighborhood groups are looking for a service opportunity, it's a really fun one. The second one I want to tell you about is Reggie Rama. This is my favorite event. It's a summertime movie series outdoor that we do on the quad. I've got plenty of these. I'll pass these around. It's June 9th, July 14th, and August 11th. This year we've added live music to the event, and then you're welcome to come onto campus anytime starting at 6:30. We'll have a food truck, or we'll be working with Brooklyn's Finest Pizza, actually, which is just right across the street from us in June. So they'll be around. Family-friendly movies, PG or PG-13. 2 really fun things to note this summer, July 14th, we're going to work together with several of the North Denver neighborhood organizations to host a fundraiser for Bienvenidos Food Bank. We'll have a big barbecue. We'll have hopefully a neighborhood band that's going to be out there. And then the movie we'll show is Sing. So I invite you all to come for that. I think we're still working on the details, and I'm looking around it because I see 2 of the main organizers here who are coordinating that. Tribune and Amber, and I'm sure there are others are involved as well. But and Nora, right? Yes. So I'm excited about that, and really, again, like opening Regis as this neighborhood gathering spot that we can do good for others. So I'll pass these around. The other fun thing, on August 11th, we're showing School of Rock, and we're going to have the Denver School of Rock band play on the quad. So they're 11 to 18-year-old kids who will be rocking out for us that day. So and it's run by a Regis alum, so that's really fun. Some other things that we work on together, as I mentioned, we're hosting the Brun annual meeting in June, so just a couple of weeks from now. And a large group of us just worked on hosting a mayoral debate with the Fair Election Fund. We were the only site that received the Fair Election Fund debate, and we're really proud of that. And we worked with 10 different, or I guess 9 different, including Regis becomes 10 different organizations to put that together. So I imagine that we will be doing that again in the fall for the school board race. We had the Denver North Star. We had the Denver North Star as one of our media partners along with CPS Colorado. So those are exciting opportunities for the neighborhood, and I think a good educational opportunity for voters. And that's it. I'm here available for questions. If anybody is curious about how you can host an event here or a community meeting here, let me know. I'm totally open to finding a room. It's hot here today. So, and I don't think these windows open. So, have a good afternoon. I'll pass these around. If anybody wants these flyers, go ahead and grab those. This stuff is always on our website about the food bank, but I'll leave them up here next to the newspapers. That's it for me. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. I think we'll do some quick committee reports. Greg, is there any finance?
Up in the spotlight.
Yeah,
right here.
He marks the spot.
The marker.
Okay, a quick financial report. As of April 30th, we had $20,365 in operating accounts, and we had $16,788 in our community fund. In April, we had $1,100 in income, and that included $750 for our awards event from Denver Water. Expenses for the month amounted to $584.30. Part of this is getting a new post office box. We downsized from one that was $360 a year to one that's $175. Our new PO box, which is on the website, is 181012. 80218. So if you have anything with a post office box beginning with 3, it's the wrong one. They will forward it, but our new post office box 181012. Thank you. And we had a $25 donation to our community fund. And if you want to make donations to the community fund, go on our website. And there is an icon that you can scan with your phone to make a donation, or you can send us a check or whatever. But donations to the community fund are used strictly for charitable purposes and not used for operating expenses. So, any questions? That's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Transportation, Joel?
Good morning, delegates. Joel Noble, INC Transportation Committee Chair. We met this past Thursday, May 11th, from 6 to 8 p.m. and had 35 in attendance, which was a good turnout. Had a very full agenda. We started off with a presentation from Pete Piccolo, the Executive Director of Bicycle Colorado, with a legislative update. They've been tracking and promoting several pieces of legislation this term. The state legislative term is just finished. A couple I want to highlight here. One is legislation that expands the areas where cities can use things like speed cameras. Right now, it's very limited to residential areas, areas near parks and so forth. And really, that's not where the traffic deaths are occurring. And so many traffic deaths are due to speeding. That has been passed by the legislature, and it's waiting to see if the governor will sign it. Another key piece of legislation, as you know, Denver's been doing e-bike rebates, which are income sensitive. In addition to that, the state is starting in 2024 and running for 10 years, going to have $450 e-bike rebates available to everybody. And nothing stops those from being used in conjunction with each other. So those are just two of the pieces of legislation we heard about. The second item on the agenda was introducing 2 new RTD directors, Joanne Rusha and Michael Guzman were both elected in November and have districts that significantly overlap Denver. So it was good to get Denver neighborhoods to meet these 2 directors. They're both quite new, but very engaged in topics like RTD's fare study, which is just wrapping up, and proposing a real simplification of the fare structure and expanded ages for which youth can ride free, etc. At the end of our meeting, we had a little discussion from Michael Henry about whether INC should take a formal position supporting the fare structure. We didn't have a deep dive on that at any meeting. We haven't studied it closely, but there are elements of that fare structure that specifically speak to things that INC has already adopted in our transportation platform. So I'll be talking with the board in the coming days about whether we could repeat what's already in our platform that's supported in the fare study in order to express our support for those elements with positions INC has already taken. The third topic we had was a brand new topic for most of us, which is bus rapid transit on Federal Boulevard. As you know, Denver Moves Transit, which was part of the package of plans done at the same time as the new comprehensive plan and Blueprint Denver, identified many major corridors in Denver to receive bus rapid transit upgrades. And Federal Boulevard, as I think our second busiest transit corridor after Colfax, is now being studied. Now, Denver had done an internal study of how they would approach BRT on the Denver portion of Federal Boulevard earlier, sort of during the pandemic, and they've handed it off to CDOT to lead this next phase because Federal, of course, goes beyond Denver, both north and south. They have an RFP out for consultants to run this project. There will be public engagement, but we heard both from Ryan Knowles from CDOT and from My Law from Dottie who are the co-project managers. So we'll be following that. Finally, we ended with an update on the general obligation bond projects. As you know, in 2017 and then again in 2021, Denver voters authorized bonds for a wide range of purposes, many of which were transportation projects, and they all have to be issued within 10 years. So here we are mid-2023, good time to get a status on how that's going. We had the pandemic, of course, which slowed everything down. We had inflation, and so it's becoming challenging to do all the projects on time and on budget. But we got a real good insight into how they're prioritizing and how they're finding other money to supplement the bonds. The clear commitment we heard was that all of the projects voters voted on will be done, which was great. And of course, there's a lot of detail in the mechanics of getting them all done. This is a very solid meeting. We'll be updating the video in the next few days.
Thanks a lot, Joel. Adam?
Yeah, mine's gonna be super brief, Joel. It's climate and sustainability. Our next meeting is June 8th. That's a Thursday evening. The topic is gonna be urban density and trees. We're gonna talk about neighborhood tree planting efforts and maintaining existing trees in the city and county of Denver with the urban forest strategic plan. Some of the agenda is in flux, but we'd love to see as many people as we can there. I have my personal email, which may or may not be a great idea, up on the agenda there. So if you're interested in coming and you're not already on the list, please just let me know. We'll put you on the list. If you want to volunteer anyone else to be put on the list, please let me know. And we'll see you all on June 8th. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Joanna?
Hi, thank you so much. I wanted to update you on the Education Committee. We had a meeting on April 29th with 41 members that joined. We are focusing on the youth awards, and I will be announcing them next month's meeting. I apologize, I did say that I would do that this month. However, we have a lot going on with end of the school year. I am looking for volunteers, and thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Joanna. Do you want to go stand up there, or how do you want to do this?
I don't want to stand up there because A, you could see me great on the screen right there.
Okay.
And B, I have a few notes and some technical stuff to orchestrate here.
I think I can play.
Yeah, I have the video too, but if you can play it, that would be awesome.
I think.
Yeah, so I'll just start talking. If you want to get the video up, that would be great. That would save me a little bit of the technical stuff. What we've been talking about from the last climate and sustainability meeting is the Greener Denver platform. Some of you might not have heard of it. It is, let me bring up I do have the website.
I think I can do it from here.
You want to bring up the website too? Yeah, if you could bring up the website for a second. What this platform was started because we wanted to inform the new people coming in from city council and the new mayor, if they're not informed already, which surprisingly they're not, on a lot of environmental issues that are facing our city and county. Those are those 8 environmental issues you see up there. They're gone now, but we'll put it back up.
There we go.
We're gonna show you a short video from Theron, who's been kind of leading this effort. And then what we're looking to do is bring delegates on board to endorse the platform, the Greener Denver platform, and then send that endorsement from Inc. Denver to the mayor's office and the city council. And I'll read the motion and the endorsement after you watch the video. So if you don't know what the platform is, you'll be more informed about what it is.
Or do you want me to show the video now?
Yeah, if you can show the video and
Okay.
and if not, I could probably pull it up and
No, I think I got it here. And thank you, everybody, for bearing with our doing all this technology.
So today I'm going to go through a little history of how we got to this platform
and then talk about this platform, not extensively. I just want to know what it is.
Hold on, I'm sorry, let me switch screens here. My screen sharing.
Take your time. You're already doing well because you got audio, so.
Well, is that? No, that's not it.
You should be able to. Okay, so yeah, I'm sharing my.
With that, let me get into it. Was anyone able to use the barcode to get the slides? Right. Thanks.
That's me. Hold on.
Now I just got to figure out how to advance my slides on this
All right.
platform. There we go.
Click on the right tab. You.
I think
you
this
had
is
it.
it.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's what I was just gonna say.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to back it up though, where he's.
Start on in like 6.5 minutes.
6.5.
Or
Okay.
6, yeah, 6.5 should be fine.
Okay.
See what happens. A little background. I don't need things.
Okay. So let's see if this works then.
So you still have to drag it, I think. I'll share it. Still not sharing it. Let me get it going here. Hold on.
Well,
I got it. Hold on.
I can screen share now.
Well, yeah, I got it. Let me.
A lot of forces that didn't want this to happen for whatever reason, where they didn't want to spend the money on it or didn't think it was important or had other interests that were more important than this. So the people that were involved in this really kind of reached a climax back in 2018.
Yeah, I'll bring it over.
I have no idea what's going on, guys.
I got it.
All right.
I got the backup. Hold on. Let me.
Can everybody online see this? What's on our screen? I want to make sure that we are not. Can you hear us online?
Hold on. It's happening right now.
Okay.
So we can hear you. This
Okay.
is,
There it
Judy.
is.
We can hear you and
Now, do you see a video?
yes.
Pretty versatile. So
Yeah,
It's gonna be
It's
Matt.
all-
with that,
it's
let me
all
get
working.
into it. Was anyone able to
Thanks.
use the barcode to get the
You
slides?
should hear it.
Now I just got to figure out how to advance my slides on this.
Yeah, turn yours up.
Was anyone able to use the barcode to get the slides?
Can you turn your volume up?
All right.
100%.
Thanks.
Oh, it's coming out of the projector. Hold on.
You're so close, guys.
Oh, my gosh, this is crazy.
It's
For two
hilarious.
non-technical people, this
You're
is
doing great.
a lot.
Watch this.
I'm glad I'm not.
Now I just got to figure out how to advance my slides on this
All right.
platform. There we go. So I want to talk a little bit about the Climate Protection Fund and the Climate Action Task Force that some of you were on. I was a big part of that for a big part of my life, actually. Took a couple years off work to work on this and to make sure this got through to fruition. But the Climate Protection Fund is the $40 million that the city raised through taxpayer dollars. It was citizens led. It started in 2019 and took, a good 2 to 3 years to get through the process. And a lot of what the volunteers and the people who were involved in this did was from years of trial and error, a lot more error than trial maybe. And then against a lot of forces that didn't want this to happen for whatever reason, where they didn't want to spend the money on it or didn't think it was important or had other interests that were more important than this. So the people that were involved in this really kind of reached a climax back in 2018 when the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said that we have to drop our emissions in half by 2030. That woke everybody up. It kind of gave a rallying cry, and several groups came together. Joel and Clark, City Councilman Clark was a key figure in joining those forces together. And from that, and I'm not getting all the details there, it turned into a Climate Action Task Force that put a ballot initiative on the ballot that won with 64% of the vote to enact a $40 million climate tax. And that tax will go up as the city's revenues go up. That tax goes up with there. So out of that, the new climate committee was formed. Actually, it's an office in the government or in the city. There's an executive director that's in charge of that now. All those positions were created as a result of this climate protection fund. And now the city is one of the leaders in the country in climate. But you know, for all they're doing, it's still not enough. And as we were looking at this mayor's campaign that were coming up, we started looking at the previous administration and saying, where are all the places we went wrong? Where could we do better to really move the needle on climate? And as we started talking to other groups, we realized it wasn't just the climate action teams, it was the water team, the food team, the parks people. Everyone had a similar experience with this administration, that they went through very detailed task force, a lot of people giving their hearts and their time to come up with action plans that were never either funded or acted on or adopted or embraced. And so that brought us to this topic that I want to talk to you about tonight. Oh, I threw one other slide in here too, because I always like to give some background on this about Denver's greenhouse gas emissions and where they're from. I just want to hit on that real quick, a little bit of climate plug here. But I want to show you this inner circle in here and show you that electricity and natural gas are our two biggest polluters there. We all use those, but I always like to point to the other side of that and say Xcel Energy delivers all that to us. So we have a single source that delivers that. So there is a place we can concentrate. The other side of the transportation is mostly gasoline, as you see in this outer circle, some diesel. But whenever you lose sight of, you know, what's going on with greenhouse gas emissions, you can kind of look at this circle, and I gave you a link to that in this presentation where you can find that. It breaks things down for you. But one thing that's coming up, and it's in this document, is we have an agreement with Xcel that is a funding agreement, a monopoly agreement, and that's coming up during the next mayor's term. So it was one of the other things that sparked this involvement of all these groups to get together is, hey, let's try to influence a mayor that's going to stand up to Xcel and do the right thing for the community and not for someone else's business. So here's the barcode that will take you to this platform. The platform is actually only a 3-page letter. And a lot of organizations came together, as I said, to do that. I'm going to show you those organizations. I'm going to jump through the letter rather quickly, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion, because I think that's the best way to bring out what was going on here. So this was the end of the letter, and the people who signed on to this. Thank those of you who are on this list, or your organizations who are on this list. It's a wide range of groups. It's not inclusive of in any way. There's a ton more people that would have want to be on this and put this together. But these were the groups that had the resources and the history to be able to throw all this into one document, so that we didn't miss something and that we had a pretty good document. One thing that governed this was a commitment to equity, environmental justice. I love the opening to your meeting where you talk about these things, and all these groups are very vested in this and wanted to make sure that this platform considered this first and foremost of everything else. This platform doesn't try to prescribe the solutions, but more presents what solutions were already out there and what groups would need to come together to present or to accelerate the next administration's foray into this area. So next, I'll go into the different areas of the platform. there's a climate mitigation section. And mainly what we're asking for is for the next mayor to support the previous Climate Action Task Force recommendations from 2020. Part of that is raising $200 million a year. The existing tax only raises 40. And then part of it is these top two goals here, reducing greenhouse gas emissions 65% by 2030. That's what the fair amount is for Denver to reduce by to meet that IPCC panel's goals. And then 100% by 2040. Denver should have the means to do that, and it needs to move in that direction. Most of the direction that Denver's moved on those numbers right now has come from Excel moving to renewables, mostly through the electricity supply. All the other efforts we're doing have not moved the needle that far, and the city needs to act more. So that's one of the simple recommendations. Down here for land use and transportation, there's other plans that have been out there for years. The Denverite plan and the Denver Streets Partnership plans already prescribe what needs to happen. We don't need to put a new task force together to start over and delay this action another 2 or 3 years, which is what has been happening with the current administration. So that's kind of the gist of this letter, is to say, you already have the plans. Will you commit to funding and implementing these immediately upon being elected? And we're also not trying to endorse a candidate. We're trying to get as many candidates as we could to adopt this so that whoever does get elected has this commitment in place. Here's one on food. There's a Denver Food Action Plan that I know was, I think, 3 years in the making to put that together. Very well thought out. It commits not only to food, but to the waste from the food and what needs to go on. Moving on to waste, there's a sustainable resource management plan that's pretty recent that came out. And so we're asking for them to follow that plan. A lot of these plans did include equity and injustice in those and have already been built into these, but it's not saying we don't have more ways to go in that area. There's a water plan, the Denver One water plan from 2021. And then I copied the whole parks and open space section because it's pretty near and dear to all our hearts, and had a ballot initiative that was shot down that was in this interest. And just wanted you to be able to read this and see this. I can read this real quickly if you want, or you can read it. But it essentially ticks off the things we all want is, hey, save parks within 10-minute walk. We need to connect the neighborhoods together, both neighborhoods of people and neighborhoods of habitat and wildlife. Minimize sprawl where there's natural development, but provide density where it's needed to do both sides of the equation.
Okay. Let me get this.
I can stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay.
And then, so that's the background on the Greener Denver platform. I cannot say it better than Theron did, so I wanted to play it for you and have him explain it. Do you want to explain the voting process first, or should I read the motion first?
Why don't we do the motion first?
Okay, so the motion is the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation Climate and Sustainability Committee recommends that the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation join in supporting the citizen-led Greener Denver platform. The platform contains recommendations on ways to combat climate issues for the incoming mayor, city council, and other elected officials through a lens of equity and environmental justice. These are primarily based on the existing city plans, specifically relating to the following 8 areas: air quality, climate mitigation and adaptation, energy, food, land use and transit, parks, open space and biodiversity, waste, and water. Those are all the things that Theron just described in his video.
And they're all viewable at that link. And it's basically, like he said, asking for the city to actually implement all the plans that they've come up with over the past 8 to 12 years. So I don't think there's a whole lot new in this at all.
Yeah, there's nothing revolutionary or innovative, which is good in one way and not good in another, but Keith's gonna describe the voting process that goes on so that we can move this endorsement forward through Inc. if we get enough yeses.
And I am gonna rely on, I think, Lou and Greg as well, because I'm not the perfect person to talk about our voting process at this point. And Joel too, you can chime in as well, but the process is that we send this out to delegates and you take it back to your RNOs and you discuss it for the month. We're gonna try to put a presentation packet together with all this information and we'll send it out to delegates, and then you can discuss it with your RNOs, take a vote if your RNO wants to support it or not. And then we are gonna come back and in a month from now, we will have this again where we'll do a quick presentation on it, and then we'll send a vote out after the next meeting, and it'll be through SurveyMonkey online. And then the most important part is that you need to, we're asking folks to vote. Whether you vote yes or no, that's up to, you know, your individual RNO, but we do want to make sure that folks are making this a priority. Because we all get a lot in our email boxes, just to make sure that when this does come out, and we'll point this out again next month, is that you take the time to, I think you can either vote yes, no, or abstain. So please make sure you do one of those things.
Anything to add?
I think pretty much captured it.
Okay.
The point is that we did change the bylaws so that if Inc. is taking an official position on anything, that really needs time to go back to your RNOs, so that the RNOs themselves have a chance to be educated, so that we're not just a few people in the room making decisions that are purportedly representative of the entire city, neighborhood organizations. So this gives you the time, the packet will give you the information, and then we'll come back and adopt this. We do have to have further conversations about the word platform and what that means. In other words, if anything else comes up that is talked about in that platform, does that automatically get viewed? And that's a board decision to a certain extent, but the real goal is to make sure that these decisions are well understood throughout Inc. and that Inc. Does its job of educating RNOs, and then RNOs take a actual formal position on these things in a very specific and democratic way.
So this next month is for the RNOs, the delegates, to bring it back to their RNOs to talk about and decide whether they want to support it or not.
And the link should help you send it out to your boards and post on your websites if you have that. Make a quick presentation, and oftentimes we try to get RNOs that need somebody to come and talk to them, to have somebody to come and talk to them, so that it isn't just a link where people don't really know the context. So maybe that's Adam, maybe that's somebody, but hopefully it's a good chunk of information that will be sent out quickly, because you really need the full 30 days to be able to.
And I've talked to Theron too, who is one of the creators of this platform, which is, you know, if your RNO wants to take a position and support this individually as well, you can do that, and they would definitely welcome neighborhood organizations to be on that list. And that's something you can do, and I'm happy to facilitate that communication or connection with Theron to get your RNO up on that list as a supporter as well. Is there anything else?
Awesome. No, thank you.
Okay. Great. We were okay. Trudy?
Do we want to ask if there's any questions?
Oh, yeah. Is there any questions here or online about this process or this support?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Do I have to unmute here now?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to throw a wrench in this process, but just like how, and this is an issue for Inc., it's an issue for the RNOs, just how Inc. here doesn't want to take a position that's not representative. you send this back to an RNO, and RNO doesn't have enough time to discuss this, and I get that we have a month, but there are just so many other priorities going on that require people's input, that this doesn't hit our radar. And then the RNO is in the same position, which is, will the 9-member board speak for 5,000 households? The answer for me is no. I mean, I'm just gonna say, like, unless we have a formal presentation, more than this, right? But there's no time. It's not like I'm saying, yeah, come on over and talk to us about it. There isn't a time and capacity. So I will be abstaining from a lot of this because of the fact I will end up voting for myself or 9 people in the neighborhood. So what we're doing in our RNO for similar purposes, and we have these issues, whether it's land use, whatever, we send out a survey monkey, right, to our neighborhood in the same way. I'm just wondering whether you guys, in the same way, do a survey monkey that all of us just send to our neighborhood, and then you collect the information on the number of people who responded, rather than just the board, and the board of 9 could participate in it or not, but then we're opening it up, you know? So instead of sending it to the RNO, to then send it out, I'm just wondering whether the real issue should be, we send it out to our entire community and have them vote for themselves, and then you could say 30 people from Sunny said yes or no, or something like that, instead of us doing that for 1 person from Sunny.
So let me just address that, Tripti, because it's a really good point. We really tried to address that when we revised bylaws just 2 years ago. And so the members of Inc. are not all the individuals. They are the RNOs. So RNOs speak through their board. And so to Adam's point and Keith's point, the RNO could in and of itself sign on to this and send a letter saying, my RNO supports this platform endorsement. But to take a vote for Inc., it's really the delegates. And so it's up to each RNO. And I think our goal in the next year will be to help RNOs figure out how to do that more effectively, how to do it better. What is your website? How do you send a survey monkey? What do your bylaws say? Oh, you don't have bylaws? Let us help you figure that out. But that's at the RNO level, not at the Inc. level. RNOs or the members have to speak to their 2 delegates for the bylaws.
Yes, but the RNO can't speak for the membership unless the membership has actually voted on this. So for me, it's like this 2-step process, right?
You're right, but that also depends on the RNO. I mean, some
correct.
RNOs really function through their boards because they don't have the bandwidth. So they have to feel comfortable that they know their neighborhood. And we're not telling RNOs how to take those positions. We are trying to educate RNOs about resources so that they know how that democratic process is supposed to work, because some RNOs have gone off the rails and we have a lot of neighbors fighting with one another, and we're not going to get into that, but what we're going to try to do is educate on best practices for those. But what one point you may want to say is to this group and to the leadership is, I don't think 1 month is enough. Because if a topic is big and important and RNOs need to have more time, like RNO only meets as a large group 4 times a year in public meetings. Now we have a very robust website, which is new, thankfully, and ways to reach people, but it's more difficult. And if it's zoning that's down the block and on your main street through your RNO, it's one thing because people pay attention. But and if it's an issue of environmental justice, some people have that as a passion, they will pay attention. But how do you get it out there? And I do think it's fair that if you have a way to get it out there with these links where people can give you input. I mean, you can't say, just like most of us vote, a lot of people don't. It's those who participate, whose voice is heard. And I think RNOs just have to keep that in mind. So maybe you ask for more time if you really need it, or maybe our other RNOs weigh in on that. But it is really, the system is set up to do the best job that we can. And it does make it harder to take official positions. That's because we wanted those to be more democratically representative. I hope that helps.
No, it does. And I think for us, it's like, you're sending it to us. What we might need is a Survey Monkey designed for Sunny, that we send it out to Sunny folks. When Sunny gets that back, says, this is what we saw, and based on that,
The
this is
board
how we
votes.
vote. Yeah, so I think that's, right now, I mean, I don't have time to create it, you know, do a different one, but just something to think about in terms of, and again, our RNO Sunny is trying to be democratic like Inc. to say, we don't want just the board to vote, we want to hear from the community. Unless we hear a mandate from the community that a majority wanted, we wouldn't take a vote.
And our goal with these new bylaws is to help RNOs do that better, quicker, you know, so that if they don't know how to send a Survey Monkey, we can help. So that is coming.
All right.
If you feel like you need more time, that is something you ask leadership for. Other RNOs can weigh in on that.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Trupti, for your rather large wrench. Yeah, that was great. No, that's a really valuable discussion. And Blake, Davis, if you want to unmute.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'll put myself on video too here. So in general, I think simple is better. And we're asking to vote on a platform, right, that represents that we're just asking the city to go execute the plans that they already have in place. I think if we vote on a statement that says that, rather than voting on a whole platform that can change the second after people vote on it, then it's a whole lot simpler to get votes to support the plans that have already been defined versus a whole new platform of things that could be in addition to what the plans are already defined, and something that is, you know, malleable after the vote. So that just my input to the process. And I agree, I think it is important for us to get the support of the RNOs. But again, I think we seem to be voting on something a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
Hey, Blake, let me just respond to that for a second. This is Adam. The platform shouldn't change. It's basically a 2-page letter. We can confirm that it's not going to change.
Okay.
But in my mind, if we vote on a platform as it is, the day that we vote on it and the day that it passes is what it is. It shouldn't change. It's
Okay.
okay.
I thought it was a whole website with lots of other information. So thank you.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Theron made it as simple as possible. I mean, it'll literally take you 5 minutes to read it. So
All right, thanks.
I'll just point out too, that all the mayoral candidates that are still in the race have endorsed this platform and said that they are going to implement it, as well as most of the city council candidates that ran as well. So it's already been endorsed by candidates. And so I don't think they would change anything after the fact. So.
Roger that, thanks.
Great. Can we move on, or was there anything else?
I think we need to.
Okay, I think we do need to move on. So we're Trupti, if you want to jump up.
Yeah, so with the strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're so actually David Sabados is gonna go next, talking about using neighborhood media to get the word out. And after that, we'll take a little bit of time to kind of discuss some of the issues that are outlined under there. David?
Great, I'm trying to do screen share here.
Oh, let me stop sharing my screen. Great. And we've got hopefully about 30 minutes for this part of the discussion. And then we're gonna do hopefully about 30 minutes on increasing diversity as well in RNOs. And so this will be the kind of the membership and engagement section and all the diversity sections.
Great, I think I'll probably sit here, folks in here, because I can run slides that way.
Yeah.
The L's picking me up.
The Owls.
He should be fine where he is.
Yeah, go ahead and start talking. See
All right, I'm Dave Sabados. I'm the publisher of the Denver North Star and the GES Gazette newspapers. Great. And for those of you in the other 80% of the city that our papers don't cover, this presentation is for you all as well. It's not just about Northwest Denver. I want to talk about the two ways that neighborhood organizations can be engaging with community papers across the city. For those of you not familiar, Denver actually has a fairly robust group of community newspapers. The Denver North Star, our flagship paper, is the city's largest in the northwest corner here. We also have the GES Gazette, the Denver's only bilingual community paper, as far as I know. But there are other papers across the city: Five Points Atlas, Lifeline Cap Hill, Wash Park Profile, Greater Parkland News, Front Porch Northeast. There are magazines that reach specific constituencies, like Denver Urban Spectrum. And I know there's other newsletters and probably a few others out there as well that I may not know, as we also don't know the east side of the city quite as well. I want to talk a little bit about the role that community papers serve on the editorial side to start with. And, you know, I see us as reporting on news that you simply just don't see anywhere else. And news that is coming directly from community. The story on the right-hand side, this is the issue that comes out next Monday of the North Star, because I'm actually from the future and brought it for you on here. Sorry, I had to give some bad jokes and you're lighting it up on Saturday morning. That article on the side about failing bridges on Spear, I don't believe is being addressed elsewhere, and that came from members of JPUN. Was that you? Your husband? Thank you. There's your article. You know, these are the sorts of stories that folks will reach out and say, hey, we're not hearing from, in this case, CDOT, and, you know, Spear is having problems. What's going on? And I will say, we had a similar story a while back about sound walls along I-70. And shortly after we started writing about it, our next issue had a great photo of city and state leaders with hard hats and new sound walls. And I'm proud that that is a role community papers can serve, to be your voice when there are issues that are not getting attention. And that's at the really neighborhood level. I wanted to highlight also topics that affect the entire city. Back in 2021, we were approached by a same-sex interracial couple who said they were having hard times with the city's Board of Adjustment, and they saw other households getting variances that they weren't. And we dove into the issue. I'm proud to say that this story won several awards, but more importantly, it helped spur some systemic change at the city, citywide, with the Board of Adjustment. In 2021, folks in other part of the city suddenly started hearing about the board. This is in part where it came from. So the first part, my first ask of you all is reach out. Reach out to your community paper when there are stories that are happening in your community that you feel need more attention. Sometimes an issue will come out and people go, Dave, why didn't you write about blank? And honestly, the answer is, you know, we're a lot of places, but we don't know everything. And so we rely on active community groups to be reaching out to us, to be asking us about stories. You know, we have the professional talent to be doing investigative journalism. We have the talent to be doing community write-ups on events, and we can help amplify and dig into issues that are going on. And I know that all sounds great. You're like, cool, we can send stories along. The second part I want to talk about, honestly, I'm going to ask you all for money. And newspapers are not free. Nothing really is. But we are very affordable, and we can be very effective for you all. And I want to talk to you all about advertising in your community papers. Again, I'm here representing two, but honestly, this conversation is about all those papers that were on that list. We have the reach that others don't. All of Denver's community papers, to the best of my knowledge, are either mail delivered or door-to-door delivered, and to every door in that neighborhood. I'll say we switched the North Star from door-to-door to mail as it became more dense up here, and that allowed us to reach into apartments and condos better, ensuring that we're reaching those residents as well as single-family homes. We have trust that you don't find on social media. We're just talking about, you know, outreach and garnering community input. How often are you on social media and you see Denverites who love children and puppies is asking you to sign a petition that you figure is probably some questionable political group actually involved in the mayor's race. That's often what you're seeing. That's not who's advertising in your community papers. And so when you work with us to be reaching community, there is a built-in trust that you don't find elsewhere. And we're local. Every Denver community paper is either locally owned or part of a small group that's local as well. And those monies stay in our community. I joke that Zuckerberg isn't going shopping on Tennyson Street. Our team is. You know, your advertising dollars into your local paper support our effort and stay in this community and recycle in this community the same way spending at other small businesses do. And you can say, hey, the first three are great and we want to ideologically support, but at the end of the day, you know, we're nonprofits who don't have a ton of money. And I know that. And that's why the last point is we're affordable and we're more affordable than most of your other options. So if you want to send direct mail to a neighborhood of say 5,000 households, that's going to cost you about $2,500. And that's, I know because we mail, that's going to be 20 to 26 cents of that is just the postage, plus you design, plus you have to create the actual materials. That same $2,500, I'll tell you, is 3 months of half-page ad in the Denver North Star, roughly. And you can have more reach at less cost. And when RNOs are working together and you want to reach our entire 35,000 household basis, that same full page ad is only $2,000 a month, as opposed to 35,000 households, a direct mail piece talking about something that's going on regionally is going to be $15,000 to $20,000 for you to do. So again, you can advertise for months and months and months in your community paper for the same price as direct mail. I want to give an example, and this is a North Denver example, but again, this could be used in other papers across the city. Ad rates vary a bit, but depending on the size, obviously those ones are a bit larger, end up being cheaper per copy, but more expensive overall because of our size. A half-page ad in the North Star is $900 a month at a nonprofit rate. I have up here the list of organizations that I thought of, I may have missed someone, that are in our coverage area. If 9 of these groups came together, it would be $100 a month for a half a page. A half a page is enough space to list every RNO, your next meeting, your website. That's only about a quarter. You could use that other half of the half to be highlighting 2 big upcoming events and rotate through. So it's sunny one month and honey the next. And utilizing that space is affordable if the RNOs in an area want to work together. And again, I know this is a Northwest Denver example, but you know, for the folks, especially online, who are, you know, Cap Hill, Wash Park, you know, I recommend talking with them as well. You know, and that's actually the last part, is that we can be helpful in that coordination. Every paper I ever worked with offers free ad design, and not PowerPoint level graphics that I threw together last night, but we have an actual professional designer, same person who lays out our paper and designs our commercial ads. It's no cost to you. The Denver North Star and GES Gazette are an integrated newsroom and ad buy, but we also have an agreement with Life on Cap Hill and Wash Park Profile. We can sell into those as well. And I will say, we have great relationship with the others. So if there is citywide outreach that RNOs and INC want to be doing, we can help coordinate that for you in all those community papers that I referenced. David Walsh, who heads up our ad sales, is here in the back of the room. Ads at denvernorthstar.com for the advertising side. News when you want to reach Eric, our editor, on the news side. Like I said, we want to be a resource for you all. I think we're an affordable option for you all, and I'd love to partner more. So I think hopefully that was under my 10 minutes there.
You do have a question online, and then we'll see in the room too. Do you, this is from Ellen Roth. Do you offer the nonprofit rate to RNOs if they are registered with the city, even if they aren't registered nonprofits?
So it is a good question. It has come up. Generally, we have said a nonprofit rate. If it is something facilitated by a group that's a nonprofit ad, I think it would make sense. I'm not sure which RNO that person is with.
South City Park.
Okay, so I can't speak to a paper over there that may have a slightly different rate. I can say if it's something that's facilitated and it's 8 out of the 9 RNOs appear are, we would do that. And I would reach out to your local one as well.
It's great. Are there any questions in the room?
I have a question. This is something that I read in passing about how an organization was buying up community newspapers. And I don't know in Denver, but it was a group that went together to buy community newspapers. You're not one of those, I understand. But
so what you're probably thinking of is Colorado Community Media. And the two they have in Denver are the Wash Park Profile and Life on Capitol.
okay,
CCM has a group of, I think, 26 papers, mostly weeklies in the suburbs. So they'll Jefferson County, Adams County, they'll have a lot in those areas. I include them on the list. They are still local. They're tied to the Colorado Sun as a nonprofit. And there are some other conglomerates that are going around and snapping up mostly more rural papers as well.
David, I was just gonna say, the one thing you didn't post is that local newspapers like yours also have websites where you can post your community events online as well.
Absolutely. The North Star and Gazette do, many do have free online postings. And that is an option for some outreach as well at no cost. All of us are kind of print forward, but have increasingly strong online presences as well.
Do you have any suggestions about trying to get all the North Denver RNOs together to coordinate to advertise so we can just pay $100 a month?
Yeah, I mean, yep.
Like, could we just say you need to pay
Yep.
you and then just like have somebody coordinate, not worry about who's paying what?
Absolutely.
Is he sitting over there?
That's why I'm here. And that is David back here. And that's actually why I asked him to speak here today, because there'd be so many of you.
Okay, gonna be doing that, I hope.
Maybe that's a conversation that can happen. After the meeting, that'd be great, I think. Also, I just have a question, and there is another one online if you want to look through that and kind of edit it a little bit. But my question is, I think that, we're gonna have a conversation quickly, I think about, and I think one thing is gonna come up that RNOs need financial support from, other entities like the city. And is there an opportunity that you've seen, or if anybody else has seen it, where the city can be providing some of the funding, or there's other organizations out there that can be helping to provide some of this grant funding that RNOs actually need to help get the word out about their organizations and their meetings through things like, because this seems like a double benefit. You're benefiting a grant that you got from the city or some department would be benefiting both the RNO and a neighborhood community resource like a paper.
Yeah, so I'd say there's a couple places. One, obviously having a conversation with your council members. For the folks in the room, the GES Gazette, our bilingual paper for global area Swansea. Councilwoman Sedabaka does this. She takes out a full page piece on the back that includes updates from community groups and city agencies. So a city council office is one to do that. Of course, city agencies as well. When the neighborhood planning initiatives come along, I know those are things you all are heavily involved with. Those fall under community planning and development, of course. And I know they advertise with us some, and I think there's a chance to partner along some of those tasks. So, hey, it's the near Northwest area plan coming up and an AAP, never remember that. And it will be the RNOs that are involved and the city agencies. Those sorts of efforts I think can be coordinated well. Is that what you had in mind?
Have they advertised with you already, the near Northwest, the NPI process?
They have, they didn't do the most recent, but I think they have twice before.
Because seriously lacking in engagement.
Okay,
So. like,
a good time to push them to
Yeah,
advertise
yeah,
with us.
yeah, yeah.
Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, and I think reaching out to council offices is a really good start as well. I know Councilman Cashman has tried to start sticking some funding into RNOs in different ways in his district. And I think this might be another opportunity for council district offices to infuse some money into their neighborhood organizations and their community resources as well.
Absolutely.
So.
I'll say we have two council members actually who are from the journalism world originally. One is Councilman Cashman, who of course was the former owner of the Water Park Profile, and Kevin Flynn, who was a former Rocky reporter. And I'll say, I think that there's definitely a lot of folks in city government that see the value of these sorts of partnerships.
Awesome. Great. And is there
Just another question about this.
a resource that people can connect with you? I don't know if your email's on this.
Yeah, so this last slide, ads at denvernorthstar.com, on the paid side, news at, on the editorial side. I'm just David at, I can put it on there, but it's a small team, and if you email anything on there, it'll get routed.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, David. This is great. And David as well.
Wanted to have kind of an open
Do
discussion
you
on
want
these
to,
issues.
yeah, can you stop your screen share? Perfect. And then let me pull mine back up.
Oh, I might have logged out of Zoom.
I think we're good. Yeah, and I, Trupti was
Yeah.
nice enough to lead this kind of discussion, but these are some things that we came up with when we were talking about this in terms of.
This was very last minute in terms of us thinking about how to use what David was talking about to kind of engage in a conversation. I think some of that happened where, like, why aren't we getting together to do this more? Why aren't we talking to our council person? Now, I don't know about everybody, but I know Councilwoman Sandoval does support our local RNOs financially, based on whether they do communications, they have newsletters, they, have a distribution list, things like that. So she does. And that money could be used for this or it could be used for anything. And depending on the different RNOs, I'm sure, they use it for different pieces. But I do want to say, like, Denver North Star has been a great partner and with us, I mean, David and I probably have shared texts and emails, and same with Eric Hines. He actually attends our land use committees because we've got a lot of interesting things going on. So he participates and, reaches out, and the stories make it there. And, to David's point on that zoning board situation, that's what's leading to the change in the ordinance about the zoning board. So it does have impact. But yeah, so the financial support and obviously growing membership, right? Advertising. And so let's kind of open it up to, like, what are the challenges? I mean, I think everybody knows there's a financial challenge, and that's an easy one. We can all agree, and I don't know what the answers are. One of the things I've been trying to do, and I think some folks here, there are grants out there. And so I'm always trying to find them. For instance, there's a, calc grant. Have you heard of the calc grant? It's through Dottie. I mean, we're gonna hit it up multiple times this year, and the money's gonna run out. It's open to everybody, but it's $1,500 for an organization who embarks on a activity-based movement, RTV, bike. So
How do you spell calc?
it's Communities of Active Living Coalition. So if you go Dottie, CALC, this is out there. We are gonna be using that to help with that Bienvenidos fundraiser. And we had to figure out how to make it hit the rubric. Okay, because if it was simply we're throwing a party, that doesn't hit the rubric. But we hit the rubric when we said we're gonna encourage bike, roll, and walk. We'll include safe routes on the advertisement and marketing, and we'll spend some of the $1,500 to buy RTD passes and give them away. RTD, so that hit the rubric, and now we're going to be able to use that money to then raise money to throw a community engagement thing for Bienvenidos. And where I was going with this is, and as he was talking, it occurred to me that we're looking at doing a health and wellness day in the park and having 4 or 5 organizations apply for that $1,500, pool it. But I think we could take out a half-page ad because we're gonna get the money for free from the city, and then we could use it to advertise. So yes, it's hard to find it, but pay attention, keep your eyes open. There is a lot of money out there. Try to find it, and then you can figure out how to, do multiple things with that money. That's one of the ways that I'm, and again, all of this is doing the parties, doing the events is about growing membership, increasing engagement, right? And finding money, like those kind of all fall in, but it's tough. And it was surprising that I talked to 2 other folks in Northwest Denver who were like, I didn't even know about it. It's out there, so, how do you guys engage people? I mean,
I just wanted to kind of open it up if there was other things.
yeah,
That people had suggestions or ideas that they do. I know that.
the challenges, I mean, like, I'm always concerned about the challenges in increasing engagement and growing membership. That is a daily challenge for us.
I know Hooney, which I used to be in the Highlands, has a happy hour every month. That seems to go really well. I
Sunny
think
does too.
Sunnyside does as well.
And in fact, this month, we're coordinating and doing a joint. So that's the other part, right? Reaching across neighborhoods and creating connections so that if I know something about how to get some free money, I'm sharing it with our other RNOs so they can go after it too. So like this kind of coordination amongst, your partner RNOs is helpful. But so, yeah, I mean, how are you guys growing membership? I'd love to hear from other people. What are you guys doing?
Harkness Heights, we started doing a welcome committee to new neighbors, which seems to get with information. I want to get your email address. I want to get your name. I want to get, if you're interested in getting involved. And on top of that, doing big events. I think we do an annual picnic, which seems to bring a lot of people out. I think the more you can get engagement going, and even how do you get the information out there? That's why for us, we still also do hard copy newsletters, only quarterly, but still, I mean, if you're engaging even once every 2.5 months, and then emails, when pertinent things come up, like putting out the information for the Greener Denver platform. But how do you get their email? And so for us, it's about, even knocking on doors and just saying, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. We're a neighborhood organization that wants to have connection, and we find that the majority of people want that as well. So I think just getting out there and having people just be friendly as a first step, and then getting their information and keeping them engaged has been successful for Harkness Heights.
Amber, would you mind sharing, and then real quickly, what your participation rate is in your RNO?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're at our annual picnic last year, we're almost at 80%, and member dues last year, we were almost 70, just over 70% member dues paid. We're small though. We're, I think, 340 households. So we're small. So we can target those people. We can go and door knock. I know for Brun, it's more difficult because there's 6,000 doors. And it takes a lot of work. So for us, it's easier because we're small. But it's a good start just to get that friendly face to say, hey, welcome to the neighborhood.
So how do you identify the houses to know that this?
Public records, since and everybody can look it up, but since I'm also a real estate agent, I can go look at the recent solds in my neighborhood in the last 3 months, and then I can go to public records and find the name and the address, and then our little welcome basket, which is mostly stuff donated from neighbors. And just, we have block captains too, which is super helpful. So instead of one person delivering all the newsletters, we have people that sign up as block captains, which then deliver our newsletters and then go meet the neighbor and say, hey, I'm your block captain. We also have our crime rate in Harkness Heights is also super low because we're just very engaged in neighborhood watch. So all of that team, looking it up in public record is really where all that from, which everybody has access to. It would take a little bit more work, but if you wanted me to block out and I would be willing to do this for all the neighborhood organizations, if you want a list of the solds in the last 6 months in your area, it would take me some work, but I would be happy to do that just to get more engagement. I think that's, for me,
That would be an ink benefit of membership.
Absolutely. I think that's what we need, is I think we need more engagement rather than the same people, which I'm grateful to see the same people. I think we need more people, we need more engagement.
Great, thanks, Amber.
Yeah, I think the challenge with larger neighborhoods though is real.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, we have a listserv of about 800 and that's just, not even a quarter of our membership. So it's difficult.
I can speak to Cherry Creek and we've done, which is large. And, but we have neighborhood block captains too, that we really are pretty robust in working with identifying somebody out of the block. Yes, that's good. And then it's the block captain's job to go and when they notice a new person has moved in and so on to see if they can get them to sign up. We also in our neighborhood, and I think we're a little unique with this, we have a lot of book clubs, a lot of clubs in our neighborhood. And while not all of the clubs, you have to be part of the neighborhood organization to belong to the club. We encourage people, like book clubs and so on, that just give information about the neighborhood organization. Also, we have clubs like Exploring Denver and some of those clubs where you have to be a member of the neighborhood organization to do those kind of activities, and that some social things drive people to membership too. And then we have our website again, but and we're trying to get general members as opposed to just paid dues members, so that when we need to send information out, we can send it out to all the people. And the other thing is we have a newsletter that's delivered to every resident in the neighborhood, which is, I think it's over 2,000. And we can speak to more, and which we mail it. We mail it 4 times a year. 4 times a year.
Okay.
And then we have 4 resident meetings a year that we try to get people to come to, and of course, the more controversial topics, the more people show up. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing, but we're still exploring ways to reach out and get more. Right now, we have 500 paid dues members. Nice.
That's awesome. I think this is great. And yeah, one more. Yeah, this will be our prior last one. Yeah.
How many of you guys do charge membership?
It's donation. You're a paid member versus you're just a member, so.
Yeah.
So when you're a paid member, is there a different?
No, you get to vote on everything. The paid member for us is like, if you come to our events, you'll automatically get raffled, into raffle events, but in terms of who gets to have a say in the neighborhood, it's everybody who lives, owns, operates a business.
Right, so we don't have any membership fees, but we've done that sort of as an equity, have no barriers, access, but it sounds like, so I'm just curious if those organizations who do have membership requirements, but it's not a barrier, it increases your participation, if people participate more because they've invested some.
Can I just mention something? When people speak, can you just say your name and your neighborhood? Because
Yeah.
we're taking meeting minutes and it's challenging.
Well, yeah,
to
it's
know everyone.
people. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we are to keep moving, we're gonna have to wrap this part of the discussion up, but this is awesome. And I think we need to have a meeting just on membership strategies, because it sounds like, there's so many really good ones that folks are doing that, yeah, we could talk about that in July. That people are doing, but they just don't know. And so like, if we can figure out a good way to, help everyone communicate these things, I think it's great. And I think, yeah, block captains, that's old school, and I think it's great.
I think maybe one of the things that Inc. could do prior to that meeting is reach out to all of its members and kind of have, I hate this, but more surveys, but something so they can say, like a check box, like what are all the strategies you employ? And then we'll have an idea of who does what.
I think that's great for you to
And
do,
then,
Trudy.
no.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is diversity, increasing diversity in neighborhood organizations.
Yeah, so Jim Wolf, he's an attorney who lives in, I think, Brunn. And he was, one of the exalted rulers, they're called, leaders at Denver Elks. And he worked to, add, the diversity, equity, inclusion statements into their bylaws. And after doing that, he took it to the state. So all of the state organizations at Elks, and they adopted it as well. And here we've got a video. He was supposed to be here. I don't know what happened, but we have a video here of him talking about that process and challenges and barriers and, how to move forward.
There's a lot of
I'll let-
information, but that organization,
So Jim was gonna be here today and he couldn't. And so what we did was we set up a interview. I interviewed him online last week with Lamone Knowles, who's one of our board members as well. And so we're gonna try to there's several different parts of this. I can't encourage folks enough to just watch this whole video. He does a great job, and the conversation with him and Lamone is amazing. So we aren't gonna obviously get to show it because it's an hour long. But I'm just gonna try to play a few parts here, and then we can have a little bit more of a discussion. But Jim is pretty much instrumental in increasing both the diversity and the membership at what was a fairly dying organization. I think they were at about 12 active members, and now they're at like almost 300. And they have 600. They have 600 total members, but he'll talk about this later in the video. Active members is a little bit different, but yeah.
school raising. And so she indicated that, this might be a good opportunity because the Elks Lodge in Denver has a lot of meeting space. And so when your wife tells you you're going to do something, next thing I know, I became an Elk member. But when I do something, I don't do it, I'm usually 100%. So I did my research, background, and the Elks organization in Denver dates back to 1882. And it has a very strong foundation of charity, community organization, fundraising for different groups, the veterans, Colorado Special Olympics. And so I thought this is a great organization that could really be the foundation of a lot of the work that us neighborhood parents had been doing for the schools and our communities. But this is a national organization that has the same mission statements of what we've been trying to do in our community. And we could build upon that and actually bring it out to our community, but it also had meeting space. So it was a win-win. But as a result of that, what I started to do is go to every barbecue, every poker game that I was playing, every social thing, and I was inviting my guy friends to join. And about 2 years later, I had, between me and one of my good friends, Ben Delegate, both he and I had brought in about 100 new members, all of which were men. And the more and more that I looked around and I started talking to women friends of mine and moms and encouraging them to join, I repeatedly heard that I thought the Elks was just a men's drinking club, which it completely is not. And so I decided that at that point, we had a diversity, equity, and inclusion and a belonging issue. And how do I address that? And so the first thing I think when you're looking at deciding if you want to adopt a diversity, equity, and inclusion belonging statement is you got to look around the room and identify who's your audience and what's your mission statement? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your goals and your objectives? My goals and objectives with that was to dispel the myth that the Elks was a men's only drinking club. Number one, it's not men's only. Number two, it's not just a drinking club. The drinking club, it should be a member benefit, but the organization is built on charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity. That's its 4 cornerstone points. And a lot of those 4 cornerstones have a lot to do with DEIB. And so I also had to look around the room and realize that the Elks is an older organization. A lot of their members are a generation or 2 above myself. And so I'm really talking to either my parents or my grandparents' generation. And they don't understand what DEIB is. So what I did is I then went to the Grand Lodge statutes and their policy statements, and they had a great policy statement on discrimination. And I basically then used that discrimination policy and I integrated it into a diversity statement that I wrote, so that I could then sell it to the older generation of Elks. This is your policy. I'm just expanding upon it so that we can then advertise to a greater group of people that we all, at least us at Denver 17, wanted to advertise to, that we're open to all. And that was our mission statement, that we are open to all. The main components of the Elks is we don't talk about religion, we don't talk about politics in the lodge. So it's supposed to be a free space for all to come and be a safe zone, free of those issues that can really tear us apart, and is looking at differences, not similarities. And so what I've been learning more and more, as you know, now that I've written it and there's so much information out there around DEIB, I would say start with your research. There's so much information out there that's free to your fingertips, and really get a strong footing of what is your mission and who are you trying to communicate your DEIB statement to. And I just went to a seminar on this.
Okay, let me fast forward here.
So where do you start? Where we started was we really strongly identified that we wanted to dispel, like, we're an all men's white drinking club. Part of that had to do, we had to go back to our history of the Elks, that for a long time, it was an all men's white organization. And it wasn't till 1994, as a result of some lawsuits brought by women, that women were allowed to join. And similarly with other minority groups about the same time. And I think you need to, when you have those issues that you identify as to why any organization or any group needs to improve on its DEIB, you have to address your history that may have created where you are today. And then once you identify those history issues, be open to talk about them. Any good DEIB committee has to be able to tackle difficult conversations that aren't easy to talk about. But that's the entire mission of that committee, is talk about difficult issues, bring them out in the open. The more you can talk about it, the more you can be open about it, then the more that you start dispelling the differences, and you start concentrating on our similarities. I would really focus on finding someone in your organization from leadership that can champion your mission and your objections with DEIB. That individual, you'll find them and they'll be extremely passionate about it. And that's kind of where I was. this was a lot of self-driven because I wanted to belong to something with the Elks that had great foundations of charity, justice, brotherly love, fidelity. All those things are foundations of DEIB. But we needed to better message that and communicate it out. And since I did that and wrote it up and we adopted it at Denver 17, I was extremely encouraged that the state Colorado Elks Association in their bylaws also adopted the diversity statement that I wrote, because they found it to be principled in what they've always believed in and push it out to all their Elks. I would also emphasize that you need to educate yourself on where your organization is in this, and don't get bogged down to trying to tackle all the issues at once. Just keep moving forward. No one has it right yet. There's a lot of free information out there. There's a lot of seminars that are going out, and tackle the low-hanging fruit. For instance, with us, just by us writing the diversity statement, communicating it out to our membership and the public at large, then we, as a result of that, we got the write-up in the Westward article. Then from there, our membership started growing exponentially, with the majority of the people communicating to us that they were joining our Elks because of our diversity statement. We had Elks transferring from other lodges to our lodge, telling me personally that this is what they had been looking for. This is the home that they wanted. And it made me feel extremely proud of what we were doing, but at the same time realizing that you still need to look in the mirror. You still need to take measure of what is our, where are we at with diversity, and keep moving forward, keep identifying how you can improve upon that, and never stop. But also don't get bogged down that just because you're moving slowly with it doesn't mean that you're not succeeding.
I got one more short clip here. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, my experience with DEI is a little different based upon growing up in Denver when it was segregated, my family getting across the red line, school desegregation, and affirmative action and all of that stuff. Okay. And we were lulled into believing that we had overcome the racial disparities until 2020. Okay. And we've been upside down ever since. So it's like we're starting all over again. The racial animosity is at an all-time high, much worse than it was back in the 70s when I was getting out of high school. So from your vantage point, now your organization is still primarily white, is that correct?
I would say that's true.
Yeah. So, and then I joined the INC, is still primarily white, upper middle class people. And we're struggling a bit with diversity and putting together a diversity statement, mission, and goals. Okay. So how could we get started? I heard you say some things earlier, but from a general statement, what would you suggest getting started post George Floyd?
I think you gotta be willing to have those very difficult conversations that are not easy to have, that you and I could have from, a white middle-class male to a Black African woman that grew up, I'm a native to Denver too, and we probably grew up in very different dynamics, and understanding that, yeah, we thought we had come a long way with racial equality, but maybe we hadn't got as far as we thought we did. And where are we at now? And how do we address where we're at now and talk about it? And from there, I think you will start identifying what you're trying to communicate out with your DEIB statement. And who is your audience that you're trying to tell? It sounds like your audience is a greater audience. You have 56 neighborhoods. Being a native of Denver, the 56 neighborhoods are extremely different. And I have some really, really close friends of mine that, grew up over in the Park Hill, 5 Points area. And we talk about this stuff. And even though we live, we grew up, let's say 10, 15 miles apart, completely different upbringings and community. And Denver is still very kind of segregated. So if you just consider, my neighborhood was traditionally in Northwest Denver, Italian and then Hispanic most recently. If you go down Federal to Alameda, you have the Asian community. You have the Jewish neighborhoods, in Glendale there. And then you have the Black neighborhoods from Park Hill through Aurora. And it hasn't really changed. I'm 54 years old. I've lived here my whole life. And it hasn't changed that much, right? But we have to be open to talk about that. And then why hasn't it changed? And maybe it doesn't need to change, right? Like, just because you identify that there's, let's say diversity, maybe you call that an issue, it doesn't mean it's a problem. But how do we get our neighborhoods to interact, work with each other? Because we all probably have very similar goals and objectives. So one of the things that I was working on, and I haven't solved it, and I probably haven't done a very good job, and I'm still working on it, right? And that's where I said before, don't get discouraged because you haven't met all your benchmarks. This is a moving target. Like you said, we thought we had come a long way until 2020 with George Floyd. And a lot of these things boiled to the top, which I think is, the George Floyd thing was obviously a travesty and horrible, but you always have, I'm an optimist at heart. I tell people say, is your glass half empty or half full? I try to tell people my glass is overflowing, because I try to look at the bright side of everything. And so you can take something horrible like that.
All right, I'm gonna stop it there. Yeah, I can't say enough, like, watch this whole video, it's great. And we'll send out a link to this, but I think we just I think Jim does a really good job of hitting on some of the things that I think a lot of RNOs and Inc. as well, in the conversations that we've had, like, where do you start with trying to increase diversity and then address equity and inclusion stuff within the organization? And so I'll kind of turn it back to Trupti in terms of trying to have I know this is going to be a brief discussion, but I think, the Elks started with the diversity statement, and I think that that's a very strong place to start, and they've just seen lots of great things happen since then, so.
Yeah, I think similarly, let's kind of talk about how any organization has approached it, especially any successes with, this, we are struggling. We have a large Latino population, yet we don't have a Latino on our organization, and so we're trying, and our communications are mostly digital. So whether we get them or not, and on our events, they also don't show up for the most part. So it's been really a struggle for us to try to be more inclusive. I would say the only success we've had, if I call it that, is we do have a Denver Housing Authority a property, Quig Newton, which is about 400 households. This is, all income restricted. And for years, our organization wanted to get in there, but over like 5-6 years ago, when I started, we started having more connections. And now we're at a point where we try to do an annual event for them. We like that Calc grant. One of those was we gave away free bikes, and we're working on it again this year. The other thing we've done over there, I can't remember what it is now, but I know I've done it. But I went to their leadership. But again, we haven't found someone from there to be sitting on our board. That's a goal of ours. But our listserv and, our engagement has not, reached that group enough, in my opinion, if we're talking about representation.
What is your opinion about personal invites?
Yes, I mean, so on everything we do posters and stuff. We have a connection with their service coordinator. Okay, so I've attended their meetings. Actually, it was good to see that one of their folks from their leadership person came to our annual meeting that was just a couple weeks ago. So that was the first time. So, I mean, it's taken 5 years and, we're kind of barely getting there. But yeah, and the other thing we've done is try to support them financially. I think our challenge was, how do we resonate with that group? Everything we were doing wasn't it. It wasn't about happy hours. It wasn't about parties, whatever. So we were trying to figure out, and it was a challenge. And where we landed was, let's figure out how to support them. And so we now support a school that most of the folks, elementary school, by doing fundraisers and giving money back. So we've done those types of things, but in terms of having them sit on our board, still a challenge. And I'd love to hear if folks have, had made a break in that diversity side.
One thing that came up in this video, as we were talking, and it's a little later on, that kind of resonated with me is that we are set up to say this, try to say this is just as plain as I can. We are set up in a way that our organizations meet, the social activities that we do, that fit a cultural, somewhat of a cultural narrative of, upper class white people. And that maybe there's different ways and different opportunities out there that we need to try to explore to connect with groups of people that don't meet, at breweries, or don't, obviously, meeting on a Saturday morning is hard, and there's only a few types of people that can do that. It's usually people not with kids. And other things like that, and maybe there's different ways. I know Radian was supposed to come and talk today. They've been working with 9 Westside RNOs on diversity, and some of the things that they've come up with are, making sure you have Spanish language services that are available, and moving meeting times to make them more accommodating, and making childcare potentially available as well. So those are some of the things that they had talked about.
I also think that this is one of those things we have to ask the city for support. When the city tries to do this, they fail too. And like for the neighborhood planning initiative, they hired from the tourists. That was how they got to folks. These are people who went knocking on doors. But we don't have that kind of money. So, I think we need to ask the city if they want RNOs to be more representative to assist us in trying to get there. Because individually, it's based on volunteers, their time, and whether you have money, how much you can do it.
I think that there's different neighborhoods, diversity is different in different neighborhoods. So, some of it is, how do you reach the people who rent? If you are in an older neighborhood, how do you reach the younger people that are coming in with kids and maybe babysitting types of things, which is really a good idea. I think on that. So when you formulate and I'm from Cherry Creek North neighborhood. Okay, so because you wanted that.
Yeah.
When you look at what we can do, Inc. as increasing diversity, we really have to look at each individual neighborhood and what does diversity mean to that particular neighborhood, and how do you reach those people? So it's different. Yeah, strategies just are going to happen.
Yeah, hi, Laura from Berkeley Regis United Neighbors. I realize we're at 10, so this might be a whole separate conversation, but I was curious along these lines. If anyone has had success and like ways to start this conversation, particularly because I think even the term diversity, equity, and inclusion has become politicized in recent years. And I have discovered that sometimes even saying like, I want to have a conversation about this feels like, oh, well, we can't go there. This is a political issue, which I think is a real shame. But I was just curious if anyone has strategies for saying, this is not, we're not trying to make this a political issue. This is about representation. This is about increasing membership. Even that has,
I don't know if you were going to say something.
I was just gonna say, I would use the words representation and including membership and saying, let's look around the room and say, do we really represent the neighborhood? And we are a neighborhood organization, and start it that way rather than using the other terms, but then engaging people, because are you friends with the young person who lives down the street and has kids who's never represented this meeting, and can you invite them to the meeting type of a thing is a good way. And I love what Amber talked about with block captains, because I think block captains are your key to actually breaking down and getting diversity in your community. Because if you have someone on the block talking to people and they know all the people in that block, then at least you're getting the message from that one person to everybody in that neighborhood. And it's just time. I think people are so busy. And of course, I bet everybody in this room is really busy, because that's why you're in leadership here. And I think it's just hard to get people involved in community events generally. I joined the Elks, not because of the diversity statement. I joined the Elks because the one thing Jim said is, you can't talk politics or religion. And so it's a safe space.
I mean, I like that. I'm an Elks member, and that's what I like about it. What I will say is, and I can't recommend watching this whole video enough, is that Jim talks about this very issue. And I think, being a white male, I feel trepidation sometimes about talking about this issue, but he kind of says this, he's like, you just got to push through it and say that, like, my goal is bigger than my, being offended or worrying that I'm like, not able to talk about it. And he, I think, does a really nice job of making it, he's very genuine, obviously, when he talks, and he just says, I care a lot about this issue, and I'm willing to take some of the hits or whatever to make sure that is continually brought up.
Yeah,
So.
don't let your whiteness stop you from actually pursuing something. I think that was part of it, which is, like sometimes you're like, well, what do you know about this? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
do I stop, or do I just keep pushing through some of that negative stuff, which is.
And I would just say the other thing is, once you get a couple of non-white members within your organization who become your allies, that's when you also then increase your membership, because they're the ones that are going to drive membership. That's what happened at the Elks. I know I became a member because the person from my community asked me to join, and I wouldn't have even been approached, like Jim said. He brought his network in, but it was all white men. So once you get someone within a network, then you can build that network out.
And the other thing that he talks about later in the video, and I'll put this in the agenda and the notes that we send out, but he came up with, he listed some strategies, and one of them is partnering with other organizations, especially ones that don't look like your organization, to do events like fundraising or get-togethers or anything like that, but really searching and looking for other organizations. Unfortunately, we are we have this slated till 11:15, and we do have a few agenda items. to talk about. And so I kind of want to get to those unless there was anything else. This isn't gonna be our last DEI conversation, so we're gonna definitely have more. Jane, Amber's, I think Amber may have left. But yeah, okay.
X marks the spot.
Yeah.
This is really nice, everybody, to see a big crowd again. It sort of is reminiscent of before COVID. So it's nice to see people here and see people here. A couple things I want to bring to your attention. INC and the League of Women Voters have worked with the Denver channel, which is the City of Denver's television channel, Channel 8. It's available through the city's website. And every year that there is an election, we've always put together forums where we have a debate with people who are running for elected office. This last Wednesday, we taped the debate for the final two mayoral candidates. So we did that. This next Wednesday, you're all invited to join us at the Denver Art Museum at 5:30. We're going to be doing the runoff for the districts 8, 9, and 10. So you're welcome to come. You're welcome to watch it. It will be on Denver Decides, on the city's website, on Channel 7's streaming site, and on YouTube. So it is available so that you can watch those things. And I was able to get in some questions about the environment and what the city is going to be looking at doing with this green platform. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm really happy to let you know that we are going to have an annual awards ceremony again this year. It'll be September 13th at Ricey's Brewery on West Colfax. It'll be a fun evening. So I encourage all of you to put that on your calendar. We are starting to look for items for the silent auction. We have a coordinator who's doing that. Her name is Blair Taylor. I'll get you her information, but we're looking for all kinds of things for the silent auction. Trips or restaurant times or whatever you might have. A few years ago, someone did tea towels that show all of the neighborhoods in Denver, and that was a fun auction item. So it's just a diverse group of things that you never know what somebody might like to get at a silent auction. So if you've got an idea, we'll have Blair's information so you can get in touch with her and have things for the silent auction. And then the final thing I want to bring up, it's time to nominate people for our special awards that we give. The only reason that we have this event every time is to recognize people who have done something outstanding in their neighborhood. Somebody who has probably been overlooked, but they've done something great. So there's different categories. We have the Community Safety Award. We have Outstanding Delegate Award. We have the Neighborhood Stars, which just sort of is an opportunity for you to find somebody that you think needs to be honored and nominate them for a star. The committee met last week. We've all decided how we're going to do this. These will be, you need to submit them by, I think it's like August 8th or something like that. And we will honor them that night. So that's a big part of what we're doing. So I encourage you to think about somebody that you want to nominate. And thank you. And we'll see you on September 13th to celebrate all of this. Any
Thanks,
questions?
Thanks. I'll just say, we are definitely looking for volunteers for the event. We're looking for 10 volunteers for that night. And we've got a host of activities that we need volunteers for. And we can offer you a nice meal and a free drink. And we'd love to see you there.
Not a meal, however, not a meal.
Not a meal, hors d'oeuvres.
Not a meal.
Great. Just a quick reminder that the Horseshoe Market is going on for folks here at Regis. And then Adam, do you want to talk real quickly about our June meeting?
Yeah, so the June meeting, for those of you that can't get enough sustainability, which is like me, we're gonna talk about bikes, we're gonna talk about bike infrastructure in Denver, we're gonna talk about Vision Zero, which includes pedestrian and cycling deaths from cars and how we lower that number. And then we're gonna also talk about rentable scooters and e-bikes and all those fun things. If you spend any time on the Cherry Creek bike path or other bike paths that you see flying by you, going 30, 40 miles an hour on the bike path. Pros and cons, impact on the city, and actually what that usage is. There's some really cool tools online that show what the usage of the rentable bikes and e-bikes and scooters are. So we'll talk about that on June 10th, I think it is, and we'll be in the Baker neighborhood.
Great. Is there anything else? Well, thank you, everybody, for coming online and coming here today. We have about 50 people between online and here at Regis. So we're really excited about keeping these numbers up and hoping we're providing some value for everyone. So with that, I think the meeting, we will end it. And thanks, everybody, for coming. We'll look forward to seeing you in June.
Thanks, Keith.